Should Kirby Smart be worried about his running backs? That is the question that I have for you today. Of course, you know by now, Andrew Paul, freshman running back, tore his ACL during last weekend's scrimmage. He is done for the year, leaving Georgia with 4 running backs for the upcoming season. And one of them, Kendall Milton, has not scrimmaged and really practiced much a whole lot lately. So you're missing Zamir White, you're missing James Cook. You have all these talented backs. You have 2 of the incoming freshmen who were both going to play. I do think Andrew Paul was going to get some carries because the dude was turning heads so far in fall camp. Really tough loss, getting him really done for the year. So the other guys definitely have to step up. Obviously, Kenny McIntosh, he's dealt with some injuries himself during his Georgia career, but he is the lead dog. Kirby Smart had a lot to say about him when he spoke with reporters after the last weekend scrimmage, and he's a guy that we've been told has been turning heads. He's been very good, breaking off multiple long runs in the past couple of scrimmages. He's done an excellent job. Here's what Kirby Smart had to say about Kenny McIntosh and what makes him different. He said it's his work ethic. He's always been a worker. He was in the shadows of those other guys, and now he steps up and he leads. He pushes guys. He's got better stamina. There were times when he would get tired in practice in the past. He might be gassed and not taking reps. Now he might be the rush guy. He can go cover a punt. He can run routes out of the backfield. He's elusive. He has to work really hard on his weight to maintain his weight. I think it is really important if he can stay above that 205, 210 mark for bulk in order to protect himself. He has had the best camp he has ever had by far in terms of no mental lapses and picking up pressures. He's done a tremendous job. This is a guy who's going to have to do a lot for Georgia. We know he's versatile. Can he help you out of the backfield in the passing game as much as James Cook did last year? I think that's going to be tough to ask, even though I do think that he is a reliable option there. He's a guy who can score on any particular play. He's got speed. He's got shiftiness. He can make guys miss. And I do think he's RB1. I think he is going to lead the team in carries. But I've said all offseason, the most important guy on Georgia's offense is not quarterback Stetson Bennett. It's not left tackle Broderick Jones. It's not tight end Brock Bowers, who is the best player on the offense. It's Kendall Milton. If Georgia wants to try to repeat as national champions, they need Kendall Milton to stay healthy and be the guy they thought they were getting out of high school. And we've seen flashes, right? When he is healthy, he is a really good back. He breaks a lot of tackles. He was very good in the spring game back in April. He has got to stay healthy because they're just one bad injury away from being really thin at running back. So he's definitely dealt with his share of injuries so far in his Georgia career. Kenny McIntosh, like I said earlier, has been dinged up here and there. He's never had anything serious to miss a decent amount of games when they've needed him. But Kendall Milton's a guy who has, been hurt enough in the past where he's missed several games in a row. They need him healthy and they need him strong. And he's going to be back soon. That's what Kirby Smart said. He said, we just held him out because he didn't practice last week. We're going to throw him in there in the scrimmage when he hasn't been practicing. But we think he's getting close and he should be good to go for the Oregon game. Daijun Edwards is a guy who has done really well in mop-up duty. We've seen him at the end of games last year and even 2 years ago as well, I believe. Yeah, so I think this is his 3rd year. He's in that 2020 class. He's not a number 1. He could be a number 2 and might be a number 2 if someone goes down in front of him. But he's the guy that they can rely on if he's healthy. Branson Robinson has dealt with his set of injuries in high school. Didn't end his senior season the way he wanted to with an injury. So I know he came into Athens with a chip on his shoulder. When he's healthy, he's going to be really good. I thought both he and Andrew Paul were going to get some carries. Because, again, at Georgia, they like to run a lot of guys. They like to keep them healthy, keep them loaded, have a guy who's 100% in there carrying the ball. So they do like to share carries. And when you have guys out, you have to rely on our freshman running back sometime. And that's the one position where you can step in from high school and be successful at a little easier than the rest. If you can follow blocks and you're big and strong and can run fast, you can hit the hole and go. There's not a whole lot of learning that has to be done, as much as quarterbacks or the offensive line or guys on defense learning the playbook, knowing what to do there. So if you can run, you can run. And that's why we've seen some freshman running backs over the last few years do very well when they get to Athens and run well in their first year. So Andrew Paul, a guy who I thought was going to get some carries this year, he's done for the year. Kendall Milton coming back from a small little injury, nothing serious. Again, they need Kenny McIntosh to stay healthy too. Both he and Kendall Milton, the healthier those guys are, the more this offense is going to flourish. But I do think that the offensive line, probably being the strongest unit on the team, is going to open up holes for those guys. So I do think they're going to be successful running the football no matter who's back there, because they're going to have some lanes to run through, and the offensive line is going to get some push, get some leverage. So there's going to be running lanes no matter who's back there. But if the top two guys can stay healthy, I think Georgia is going to run the ball successfully. And I still think they're not going to have a ton of problems running the football, but you don't want another guy to go down, because then you are in trouble, especially if a guy like Kenny McIntosh or Kendall Milton gets injured for multiple games in a row, right? Again, Branson Robinson has to prove that he can stay healthy for a full football season. He's not a guy that they need to go down either. He's a tough, physical back who breaks tackles. And you need chain movers. That's what Zamir White did so well. He got the tough yards. Georgia obviously likes to run the ball at the end of games, grind out victories. They did that against multiple teams last year, and you need guys like Zamir White breaking tackles, getting tough yards, falling forward for an extra 1 or 2 yards at the end of plays, keeping the chains moving. That's what guys like Kendall Milton can do when he's healthy. Branson Robinson at just under 220. Andrew Paul was going to be that guy. He's 220 pounds. That was a guy who was physically ready to play, and unfortunately, he has the knee injury. He's done for the year. So Savon Clark is a former walk-on. When he's getting carries in the first half, I think they are going to probably be in a little bit of trouble. But at the end of the day, Georgia's, they've run the ball every year. 2011, they had a little bit of trouble. Isaiah Crowell's first year, he was the leading rusher. It did not end that season the way he wanted to, but ever since then, they've kind of turned out some quality running backs, sometimes 2 or 3 at a time. I think the last year they halfway struggled to run the ball was maybe 09, 10 with Sean Ely, Caleb King, and even in those games. Don't ask Auburn or Georgia Tech fans, because those two guys ran through them, I believe in that 2009 season for sure. But I think they'll be fine. But if they have one more serious injury, especially to one of the top 2 guys, RB1, RB2, they could be in some trouble. But there are plenty of weapons on this offense. Again, scoring-wise, I think they're going to score close to 40 points a game, 35 to 40. Possibly more than that if they can, really put a hurting on some of the, the weaker teams they play and get, 50-plus points there. But running the football, again, I think they're going to be fine, but the injury to Andrew Paul, I do think is a big one, because you can't have too many running backs. You want to keep them all fresh, especially guys who are 220 pounds who rushed for like 2,600 yards last year. The guy knows what he's doing, and he can break tackles, and that's what you need in college football, guys who don't go down at first contact. And again, keep the chains moving. But you have to have multiple guys to do that. You can't just have 1 or 2 running backs anymore to ride, just 2 guys. You have to have a lot. And if they could stay healthy from here on out, they should be fine. Again, a healthy Kendall Milton is going to turn this offense into something else. I have no problem with them throwing the football. Stetson Bennett, I think he's going to have a great year behind an outstanding offensive line. All those tight ends, the receivers are taking the next step, I believe. And again, the running backs have looked good in the scrimmage. They have, because they're running behind a big-time offensive line too. But again, Kenny McIntosh, when he's healthy, is one of the best running backs in the conference. Kendall Milton, when he's healthy, I think he's going to show why he was a former borderline 5-star running back and one of their top targets across the country in that 2020 class. Daijun Edwards, reliable, quick, can take off for a big run on any particular play, really. And now you still have Branson Robinson, who, again, if he stays healthy, he's going to get the ball too. So at the end of the day, I think they're going to be fine. I wouldn't hit the panic button just yet. But if something happens to Kenny McIntosh or Kendall Milton, which obviously you hope they can stay healthy as the whole season, I think that's just going to be really tough. But if they stay healthy, Georgia's going to be just fine at running back. And score a lot of points. But I do think the most important guy to get healthy and stay healthy is Kendall Milton. Kenny McIntosh, I do think, is going to have a breakout year. But again, stay healthy, and they should be just fine. But without a doubt, losing Andrew Paul, I do think, was a big deal. Can't lose anyone else, especially as we get closer and closer to the season. Guys, thanks for watching this video. As always, stay tuned to the next one coming up right now, and I will see you over on Dog Post.